Hello everyone! Do you want to know if a servant is good enough to spend your hard-earned sync quartz on? Great! Then you're in the right place. Happy summer to you all! Today's topic servant is Mistress C, Summer Carmilla. We will cover all the points that you can see on screen, but first a quick fun fact with Carmilla, as this is her first alternate form after seeing Elizabeth Bathory get so many, she is ecstatic. In fact, this Phantom Thief is so happy she stole the swimsuit role, she decided to put the car in Carmilla and get a nice fancy vehicle. Alright, dumb puns aside, let's go into my personal opinion. In my opinion, Summer Carmilla is honestly kinda bad. She has a little bit of good synergy in her kit, she can pull off some decent damage, but her issues stem from a weakness in her skills and her NP gain being lower than you'd like, so looping isn't quite that doable with Scotty, along with a little bit of clashing design in how she works, which we'll get into. Starting off with her stats. Carmilla is a 4-star Rider class servant, meaning she is strong against casters and weak to assassins. She has 9,651 attack at level 80, this is above average for a 4-star servant's attack, while her HP at level 80 is 10,476, this is extremely low, it is almost the bottom of the list for 4-star health pools. Her hidden stats show that her MP charge on hit is 0.52%, which is average. Her cards have 4 hits on the quick, 4 hits on the arts, 3 hits on the buster, and 4 hits on the extra. This is a little below average for modern servants. Her star weight, aka how easy it is to get critical stars on her cards, is 200, which is extremely high, which is good for her since she is based quite a bit around getting critical hits off. But her star creation rate is only 9.1%, which is about average again. Overall, her stats come out around the average mark. Checking out her deck in MP, her deck has 2 arts cards, 2 quick cards, and a buster card, a non-standard 2-1-2 deck, taking out a buster card for an extra quick card. Her noble phantasm, Testarossa Maiden, the Iron Maiden that races in the dead of night, is an AoE quick noble phantasm with 4 hits. It will deal damage to all enemies, it'll inflict a buff block status to them for 1 use, and it lasts 3 turns, and it will reduce all enemies' quick resistance by 20 to 40% based on their overcharge for 3 turns. This is an okay NP. The buff block status is incredibly strong against opponents that like to apply permanent buffs after a break bar, as it can block those, which is really helpful. The quick resistance reduction is also very nice, especially if you can stack multiple of them up. But unfortunately, this quick resistance applies after damage, so you don't get that damage boost that would really go towards helping her, along with the quick stat itself going up, which would help with possibility of looping, which she can't really do with just double Scotty. All in all, it is an okay NP that works best if you can hit the same enemies multiple times for the quick resistance reduction to build up. Next up, we've got her passives. She has Independent Action A for 10% increased critical damage, and Presence Concealment B for 8% increased critical star generation rate. These are both fantastic for Carmilla, and they synergize well with each other and everything that she wants to do. She wants to crit, she wants to make critical stars, bada bing bada boom, they work together pretty well. Looking at her skills, our first one is Femme Fatale False. This gives a 50 to 100% chance to skill seal one enemy for 1 turn. It will reduce that enemy's defense against critical hits by 30 to 50% for 3 turns, and it will produce 5 to 15 stars. This skill is a little disappointing. It does have good synergy in making stars to help get the crits for the crit defense down, but the defense down is only on critical hits, and that is quite a weak defense down. 50% defense down on a single target is not unreasonable, not unheard of on other servants, so for this to have such a high requirement as you have to crit for it to matter, really seems unnecessary and difficult to reach for no reason. Next up, we have skill number 2, Phantom Thief's Calling Card. This has a 500% chance to inflict the Calling Card Scent debuff to one enemy, and after 1 turn, it will delay 1 pip of the NP gauge. On top of that, after one turn, it will charge the entire party's MP gauge by 15 to 25%, and it will immediately, this does not have a delay, reduce one enemy's critical attack chance for 3 turns by 20 to 30%. This skill kinda sucks too a little bit. The delay-based debuff and delay-based buff make it a lot harder to coordinate your turns. Delay-based stuff is overall much, much worse than anything that you would want to have happen immediately. And the delay-based effects are not strong enough to make up for the fact that you have to wait for them to go off. At the end of the day, it's just kind of bad. The design being lore-friendly is fine and all, but for fuck's sake, Delightworks, at least make the effects good enough to make up for the delay. Only 25% for a delay? That's just weak. Moving on, we've got skill number 3, Mistress C. This will absorb all enemies' HP, it will not kill them, by 1,000 to 2,000 damage each, along with healing Carmilla for the damage done. It'll also reduce all enemies' defense for 3 turns by 20 to 30%. This is a great skill. This is easily her best skill overall. Not only is some good upfront damage, not only is it a very strong heal, but it's also a good AoE defense down. It is good for farming, it helps in challenge fights, especially if there's multiple enemies in the challenge fight. It is just plain a good skill. With these skills, you can see that she's set up to clear waves, build up stars, and then crit very hard the next turn, along with her defense downs being stacked onto one enemy. She's able to make the stars pretty well with her skills and MP, and then use them pretty well themselves. However, the fact that so many of her skills seem to be tailored towards a single target style of gameplay, where you gather a bunch of stars and then use your cards to critical hit, makes it really questionable why they gave her an AoE NP. She'd function a lot better with a single target MP, especially considering that with the double Scotty system, she can't loop. Everything about her is screaming, I was designed for single target challenge fights, except for her MP, which is AoE. So it really is that clashing design I was talking about earlier. Now, what materials do we need to level up these skills for her? Bad news, everyone! Carmilla is expensive with a capital E. She takes 8 Tear Stones of Blood, 30 Stingers of Death, 60 Iron Stakes, and 60 Cerebrospinal Fluids for every single skill. To max her, that means it is 24 Bloodstones, 90 Stingers, 180 Iron Stakes, and 180 Cerebrospinal Fluids. Man, that's expensive. That is ridiculously expensive. That's more expensive than most 5 stars out there. I don't know why she is so difficult to level up her skills. That's crazy expensive. Well, how does Carmilla stack up against her competition? Is she worth this expense? As a 4-star AoE rider, her immediate competition boils down to Martha, Marie Antoinette, Santa Artoria, Astolfo, Summer Mordred, and Summer Ishtar. There is some stiff competition here. Summer Mordred is the queen of 4-star riders by far due to her amazing looping. Her damage, her skills, everything about Summer Mordred is great. She is an S-tier servant, so she's definitely beating Carmilla. Astolfo comes with a 50% self-MP charge for fast and easy clears, and may not be able to loop, but is able to at least take out one wave without any outside help for charge, which is always very helpful to have. Marie Antoinette, while she doesn't deal quite as much damage, is able to actually loop with her NP because it has a high hit count. And Summer Ishtar can't quite loop, so she's about even with Carmilla. So that means the only 2 Carmillas really beating out are Santa Artoria and Martha. And again, that's somewhat debatable. Martha comes in handy for certain quest types, so you might find uses where Martha will beat out what Carmilla is bringing to the table. But in a general sense, Carmilla is falling to about the average to below average spot with her competition. The biggest problem being, Summer Ishtar is free and does basically everything that Carmilla can do, with maybe 1 or 2 things different. The main thing she doesn't do that Carmilla does that's very nice is put that buff block on the enemies. So, if you do roll for Carmilla, what skills should you prioritize in leveling? I would suggest leveling her second skill first. I know, I don't like it that much. I did say it wasn't her best skill, but it has decent NP charge on it that is AoE for the whole team. 25% is very helpful. And it helps you get 2 turns of MP off in a row a lot easier than you would otherwise. Then you would go for her third skill, because while it is a fine skill, it A, can't kill, and B, it's not often you're fighting in some challenge fights with a large AoE enemies, a large group of enemies to deal with. There we go. And finally, her first skill last because it just straight up sucks. It is bad. It honestly is not great. Its main effect is the critical reduction, which doesn't help that much for an AoE servant, honestly. So what craft essence should you equip her with? As an AoE rider who focuses on critical normal cards and quick NPs, you can go for quicker MPs or harder crits. For the quicker MP route, One Summer is the go-to free-to-play CE. It gives a 10% quick performance up, a 10% MP damage up, and 50% starting MP gauge. For more critical focus damage, my free-to-play CE suggestion would be 3 Anglers. This gives 15% quick performance up, 15% MP damage up, and 15% critical damage up. It's just harder to get to that first NP to start getting the large amount of critical stars. And finally, if you are looking for a Gacha CE that does a little bit of both, I would suggest the Princess's Pilgrimage if you have it. This gives 10 or 15 at max limit broken, quick performance up, 10 or 15 at max limit broken percent, critical damage up, and 40 or 50% at max limit break, starting MP gauge. So a little bit of both of what you're looking for. As for servants to group Carmilla up with, oh look, it's Waver. Hi, Waver. He has a 50% MP charge, attack up, defense up, and critical up. They're all good. The crit up is especially helpful for Carmilla, who looks to crit as much as she can, so Waver does the job. Next up, we have Scotty as probably the best support for Carmilla due to having a 50% quick card buff, 100% quick crit up for 3 turns, a strong AoE defense down to go with Carmilla's, and a 50% MP charge for an ally. It's everything that any quick servant could be asking for. And finally, Summer BB is a very strong support for Carmilla, as you can bring her in and lock your cards for 3 turns to guarantee 3 turns in which you can continue making use of Carmilla's cards and her crits to really dish out the damage. So a quick too long didn't watch here for everyone. Carmilla's a bit weak. Roll if you want. The servant's okay, but nothing great. In a world where Scotty exists and you have trouble looping as an AoE quick servant, you're going to feel a bit underwhelming no matter who you are. Carmilla's skills would be far better suited in general to a single target unit, so there's some clashing design going on. Delayed buffs and debuffs always feel bad. On the positive note, she can deal some good damage. She has the potential to deal quite a bit of damage, especially on her critical hits, and she has strong setup for future turns after an NP. So she can get the job done, it's just very niche for the job that she is set up to do. But if you need another reason to roll for her, if you do get her, then you get a beautiful and elegant lady with an awesome car in your employ. So, of course, let me know your opinions on Summer Carmilla. If you enjoyed the video, check out my Twitch channel, leave a like, leave a subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks again for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time on the next Gacha guide, and good luck on your rolls, guys.